Okay, I'll start over. So in order to talk about how to process when our teachers die, we need to talk about first how to select teachers and how to create a good relationship with them when they're alive. Because how you process it when they pass away is going to depend quite a lot on what kind of relationship you have with them to start with. Because even if you look at the Buddha's death, when he died, many of his disciples were quite upset. But then there was one old monk who said, "Oh, good, I'm glad he's gone. Now we can do whatever we want." So that tells you something about his relationship with the Buddha, his teacher when he was alive. So it's not one size fits all. It's how we relate as an individual. So we'll, I think today mostly talk about the quality, how to choose teachers, the qualities of a good teachers, the different kinds of teachers, and also the qualities of a good student. Yeah, we forget about that. We want the teacher to have all sorts of good qualities, but they got to take us the way we come, good qualities or not. Actually, no, we have some responsibility in there. Okay, so first we will do the refuge and bodhicitta prayer and the four immeasurables. And Venerable Semke will lead that. Then we'll have a few minutes of silence to just return to your breath, let your mind settle down, and then we'll go into the talk.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger.
So let's expand our motivation and not stay stuck in this self-centered attitude. But think of the situation of all living beings getting born, going through aging and sickness and dying again and again and again. And ourselves doing that too, again and again and again. And generate the bodhicitta, the aspiration to become a fully awakened Buddha, to put an end to cyclic existence by cutting off its root cause, the ignorance grasping true existence. And it's that bodhicitta mind that the more we cultivate it, the closer we are to our teachers. The more we get some sense of emptiness, the closer we are to our teachers. So with that kind of aspiration to create the causes for our good relationship with our teachers, for the benefit of all beings, then let's generate bodhicitta. So I'm going to refer a lot to volume 2 in the series, The Library of Wisdom and Compassion. So volume 2 is entitled The Foundation of Buddhist Practice. This is what it looks like. And it has 2 chapters on the spiritual mentor and relating to the spiritual mentor. So I'll read a little bits and then comment a lot and give some examples and have some time for questions. Not sure about the answers, but questions at the end. Okay. So what's very nice about these 2 chapters is they're not just going through what we usually hear about in the Lamrim. They're really His Holiness's take on it. And he says some quite unusual things from what we may hear from other teachers. And I think things to us that aren't explained in the text, because he knows that we need that kind of explanation. And he also is quite fearless in saying things that, that may sound unusual to people. So we'll be getting to some of those things. But to me, this is very much why he is quite an amazing teacher. And has made an incredible impact on my life, answering questions that I had that were really creating some, difficulties in my mind. Okay. So it starts out talking about the importance of relying on spiritual mentors. So this is something that's very important, I think, for Westerners to understand, because we like to invent our own spiritual path. Yeah, take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and mix it together. Lama Yeshe used to call it making soup, but instead of carrots and celery and potatoes, we have Kabbalah, Sufi, crystals, Theravada, Tantra, Hinduism, a sprinkle of Christianity in there. And we put it all together, and that becomes our practice. And what it really is all the things that we like that don't threaten our egos, that we've chosen and pulled out from various spiritual paths. And so we've created a soup that tells us everything we want to hear. And telling us what we want to hear is not the role. It's not the job of a spiritual mentor. Okay. Our spiritual mentors, part of their job is to make us uncomfortable. Okay. Not that they intentionally try to do it. What makes our mind uncomfortable is all of our afflictions, our assumptions, our expectations. And, we just want everything to go the way we want and to hear nice, pleasant things about ourselves and not have anything really challenge us very much. Okay. And then we think that means that our practice is going well. Actually, it's when we get challenged that we have to understand what Dharma practice means. Now, when we're not challenged, we just kind of float along and it's great, and our teacher is Buddha and the path is light and love and bliss and it's all wonderful. Yeah, but we don't grow. Yeah, when everything's so comfortable and pleases the ego, we don't grow in the Dharma. We just stay stuck. Okay, so part of their role is, push our buttons and make us look at our own mind. Yeah, so we need teachers who do this. Okay, so this is something very important because, of course, we want to hear praise. Yeah, and we want to hear nice things, don't we? Yeah. So we don't want to be challenged too much. But the thing that we have to really think about is, as Dharma students, we are signing up to be challenged. If you don't want to be challenged, if you don't want to change, if you like yourself the way you are, if you're happy the way you are, then there's no reason for you to practice the Dharma, because there's nothing the Dharma can add to your life. Yeah. But when you find that you have unanswered questions and that you don't understand your own mind and you don't understand yourself, and you don't understand how things exist, and that you get depressed and angry and picky and full of attachment, and you want to change that, then the Dharma is for you. Okay. So I remind people of that, especially people who come to a monastery, oh, I'm coming to the monastery. Everybody's nice. I'm going to cut my hair, put on a new outfit, and then all my afflictions are gone. And all these people are monastics. They're going to be so kind. Wait. Okay. So here's what Tsongkhapa says about the need for a spiritual mentor. Thus, the excellent teacher. Okay. Excellent teacher. Okay, that means a qualified teacher. It doesn't mean any old person who has some kind of titles or, you know, something like that. Here we're talking about a qualified teacher. Is the source of all temporary happiness and highest goodness, beginning with the production of a single good quality and the reduction of a single fault in a student's mind, and eventually encompassing all the knowledge beyond that. Okay, so if we need a teacher to learn how to type and we need a teacher to learn how to drive, surely we need teachers for a spiritual path that is going to transform us into Buddhas, you know, which is a lot more difficult to learn than typing and driving. Okay. And then, by the way, a very big misunderstanding that I found in Western Buddhism is people have taken out of context a quotation from the sutras where Ananda asked the Buddha, Venerable, this is half of the holy life. Okay, here's Ananda is thinking that a successful Dharma practice is half due to spiritual teachers and half to one's own effort. So Ananda says to the Buddha, Venerable, this is half of the holy life. That is spiritual friendship, spiritual companionship, spiritual comradeship. Okay, now Westerners take that quote out and they see spiritual friendship and they think it means they're Dharma friends, the other people who come to the center. Yeah, that is not what the Buddha meant. Okay, so listen, I'll just read part of the Buddha's reply. Okay, he said, not so, Ananda, not so, Ananda. Okay, this meaning this relationship with the spiritual mentor is the entire holy life. That is spiritual friendship, spiritual companionship, spiritual comradeship. When a monastic has a spiritual friend, a spiritual companion, a spiritual comrade, it is to be expected that he or she will develop and cultivate the Eightfold Noble Path. And then he goes on and tells the benefits. Okay, so in that quotation, it's not referring to our Dharma friends. Yeah, it's referring to having a qualified teacher, specifically in this quotation to the Buddha. Okay, who's the most qualified teacher. Okay, so this is important because otherwise people come to Dharma centers and you hear, oh, we're taking refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha and we're all the Sangha. But not everybody who goes to a Dharma center is a Buddhist. Some of them don't keep good ethical conduct. They know they're quite confused. How are you going to take refuge in them? You know, that doesn't make any sense. So the Buddha's, really referring to himself there. Okay. Then Buddhaghosa, he's from the Theravada tradition, 5th century. He talked about the importance of relying on a spiritual teacher and said when the disciple or the student dedicates himself to the teacher, he should say, I relinquish this, my person, to you, Venerable. For one who has not dedicated his person thus becomes unresponsive to correction, hard to speak to, and not amenable to advice. Or he goes where he likes without asking the teacher. Consequently, the teacher does not help him with either material needs or the Dharma, and does not train him in the scriptures. Failing to get these two kinds of help, he finds no footing in the doctrine, and he soon descends to inappropriate behavior or to the lay state. But if he has dedicated his person, he is not unresponsive to correction, does not go about as he likes, is easy to speak to, and lives in dependence on the teacher. He receives the twofold help from the teacher and attains growth, increase, and fulfillment in the doctrine. So that's a very powerful statement there. When he says that the student should say, I relinquish this, my person, to you, it doesn't mean, okay, I'm not going to think anymore. I'm surrendering to the guru and I lie down and please tell me what to do because I can't make up my own mind and make my own decisions. So just tell me what to do and I'll do whatever you say because I've relinquished my whole person to you. No, that's not what it means. Okay, that kind of person who thinks like that doesn't want to take responsibility. Yeah. Do you think the bodhisattvas are people with no responsibility? If you want to become a bodhisattva, yeah, do you think that then you have no responsibility? Do you think Buddhas give up all responsibility? Yeah. No, what you're doing when you follow the path is you are taking on responsibility to follow the path, to attain awakening yourself and to benefit all living beings and take them with you as you practice. Okay. And so somebody who's really sincere on the path, okay, they're not unresponsive to correction. They are responsive. Okay. So if they're doing something messy or they're out of control or whatever, and the teacher says something, they stop and they listen. Okay. What do we do usually when we're corrected by our teacher or by anybody else? But you don't understand. The reason I was doing this was because so-and-so did that. And so my response was to do this. And nothing was my fault at all. It was all the other person's fault. Yeah. Okay. So we're often unresponsive to correction. Yeah. Hard to speak to. Are we sometimes hard to speak to? Yeah. Our teacher says, would you do this, to help the center, help the monastery, help some other sentient being? No. Yeah. It's beyond my capability. I have no time. I am totally busy with doing so many other things. No, I can't do it. Okay. So sometimes we're a little bit hard to speak to. Yeah. Or teacher asks us to do something. Why? Why do I have to do that? Why can't somebody else do it? What's the reason for doing this? I don't want to wash this dish unless I know the reason. I don't want to read this whatever unless I know the reason. I want to know why for everything. And I'm not doing anything until I get a satisfactory answer. Okay. Yeah. Not amenable to advice. Yeah. Are we open to advice? Yeah. Our teacher says, very good if you do such and such a retreat. Very good if you read such and such a text. I don't want to. Yeah, I'm reading the Dharma things that I want to read, that I like. Or our teacher says, you know, before answering, maybe pause and think if you're understanding the situation correctly. Yeah. No, I don't need to do that. I'll say what I feel like saying. They're bossing me around. I will reply to them right away. I don't need your advice telling me to think about things. Okay. They go where they like without asking the teacher. Yeah. They pick up and leave and go here and there and do this and that. And, you know, don't communicate with the teacher. Okay. And they get themselves in a lot of jams that way often. Yeah. Because we think that, well, I've practiced Dharma for a few years. I'm okay. I'm not going to fall down a slippery slope. Yeah. I'm secure in my practice. And they go off and do this and that. And then pretty soon, you know, you hear about them again, and they're doing who knows what, you know, they're herding penguins in Antarctica. Yeah. Okay. So this is, you know, we need teachers. Now, the job of a teacher, what I was saying before, is, you know, some of what they say should make us uncomfortable, okay? Because it's challenging our expectations, our assumptions, our self-centeredness, okay? But we often come to teachers, yeah, expecting them, this is not at all conscious, okay? But expecting them in one way or another to be the parent that we never had, to be or we had parents, but to be the perfect parent that we always wanted to have. What is a perfect parent? One who never had any problems, who, you know, always was kind to us, who treasured us more than the other kids, and was always nice and praised us and encouraged us and gave us presents. Yeah, that's the perfect parent. And we want that kind of unconditional love. And so we often seek it from our spiritual mentors. Yeah, because some of our spiritual mentors, you know, they definitely have loving kindness and compassion. That's what they've been cultivating their whole lives. And so when we're near them, you know, we feel loved and encouraged, but then we start developing some kind of attachment, expecting them, you know, to always fulfill our emotional needs. And it doesn't work that way. Yeah, they're not here to fulfill our emotional needs. And especially as Westerners, you know, we're very into psychology, and we are, the way we develop a close relationship with somebody is by telling them our story. Yeah. Now, if you have Tibetan teachers, yeah, in Tibetan society, that's not the way you become close to somebody. The way you become close is by doing favors for them, okay? And our Dharma teachers are not particularly interested in our story. Yeah, they are not thinking about our childhood trauma, our childhood abuse, how we were ignored or traumatized or abused or any of that. They don't want to know our stories. They really aren't interested. And we are like, but I got to tell you my story. This is like opening my heart to tell you everything. Yeah. And you know, our Western teachers, you know, they'll listen, you know, to some extent. unless you start becoming repetitive. But Tibetan teachers, you know, because the way they look at our afflictions is our afflictions, our problems are not due to our childhood. Yeah, our, you know, some of the conditioning we received when we were younger may have affected these things, but these are innate factors in our mind that we've been carrying with us since beginningless time. And so they don't need to know that we're angry and we're attached and we're needy and we're jealous because of what happened in our childhood. They know that about us because they know that we have all 84,000 afflictions. Yeah. And the exact particular way in which we develop the afflictions is not a big thing to them. It's a big thing to us, but not so much to them. Yeah. That you're jealous of your younger sibling because they got more attention than you do, or, you know, your parents were always off doing something else and you felt neglected. They know that, you know, we feel neglected and we feel jealous. Yeah. Yeah. But we tend to be very attached to our stories. So I'm not saying don't tell your teacher anything about yourself. I'm saying don't expect them to know that. And if they aren't particularly interested, it doesn't mean they don't care about you. Okay? They very much care about their students, but maybe not in the particular way that we want. Like, oh, you're so wonderful. You're the best disciple I've ever had. You are more sincere than all of the other disciples here. Really, truly, I've been waiting for somebody like you to come along. Yeah. And now you're here and you're so intelligent. I can see when I teach that you understand everything. You're more intelligent than the other students. You're so kind to the other students. You know, this one student over here who's so difficult, you're so kind to them. You know, that's what we want to hear, isn't it? You know, our teachers have loving kindness, so that's what they should say to us. Yeah. As Lama Yeshe would say, check up, dear. You know, you have your expectation, check up. Is that really? Okay. Then His Holiness goes into 3 kinds of practice and 3 kinds of spiritual mentors. Before I'm going to talk about that specifically, you know, when we meet the Dharma, we learn from many different people. And okay, so I'm just going to jump in and say it because I know you people are from FPMT centers, so you've heard it before. So, you know, we hear that you've got to see the teacher as the Buddha. Right? I mean, you get that from the very beginning. Actually, His Holiness clarifies that that's only when you're practicing Tantra, but the Tibetans have brought it into the very beginning. So then you go and you have somebody leading a meditation session and you think, is that person now my teacher? And I've got to see them as a Buddha. No, there's a meditation instructor. That's it. You don't have to see them as a Buddha. Okay. You have somebody who you ask questions to and they answer your questions. You don't have to see that person as a Buddha. Even, yeah, when we talk about the 3 kinds of teachers, your Vinaya teacher, your Bodhisattva teacher, and Vajrayana teacher. Yeah. The only one where the Buddha said that you see that person as the teacher is the last one, the Vajrayana teacher. Okay. But that's only if you've taken, initiation and the Vajrayana vows and everything like that. But I'm saying this because we hear this at the beginning and then we get very, very confused. Yeah, because we have all sorts of people who help us on the path. And then I've got to see them as a Buddha. And we don't know what the Vajrayana teaching means when it says to see somebody as a Buddha, or why we're doing that. And so naturally we impute what we think it means. Okay, so somebody is a Buddha. So what does that mean? First of all, they don't make any mistakes. Or if they're making mistakes, they're only manifesting mistakes. They're actually omniscient. So when you're driving them somewhere in the car and you get lost, they actually know the directions to get where you're going because they're omniscient Buddhas and they're just pretending not to. That's what we learn. Okay. His Holiness doesn't agree with that. Yeah. Okay. So, and also because, we think, oh, a Buddha, like I said, never make mistakes. A Buddha is always kind, right? So a Buddha never looks at you and says, you were supposed to do this and you really bungled it. And, you need to sit and think about and learn from this experience. Yeah. A Buddha would never say that to me. Yeah, if I made a mistake, a Buddha who's always kind comes, bows to me 3 times, kneels down in front of me and says, "Dear student, you should really be more mindful, please." Right? That's our idea of a perfect Buddha. Okay? So perfection means somebody does what we want when we want them to do it. Yeah. And of course, what we want them to do is to shower us with love and encouragement and praise. Right? Yeah. I mean, what's the big thing in our life? The 8 worldly concerns. So if the Buddha's kind, he's going to fulfill all of our 8 worldly concerns. Get ready for a hard time if you're thinking like that. And I say all this from my own personal experience, of having many misconceptions about all of this. Okay, so for the 3 types of practice, we need 3 types of teachers. So first one is Vinaya, and that includes learning the 4 truths, the whole 4 truths, the 37 harmonies with awakening, 8-fold path, all of this, that's one teacher called the Vinaya teacher, the Bodhisattva teacher, and the Vinaya teacher, the Vinaya teacher gives us refuge and lay precepts and also monastic precepts. Then the second is the Bodhisattva teacher, where we're learning the Bodhisattva path. So they teach us how to generate bodhicitta and the 6 perfections. And they also give us the Bodhisattva vow. And then the Tantric teacher, is the one who gives us empowerment into different deity practices and the instructions on how to practice those and the pith instructions. Okay, so going back to the Vinaya teachers, because that's where we start out. Always good to build a good foundation. So there's 3 Vinaya teachers that are important for our training. So the first is the preceptor. which means the abbot or the abbess. That's the person who heads the Sangha that gives us our ordination. The second is the karma instructor, who gives guidance and instruction during the ordination ceremony, the acharya. And then the third is the interview instructor, who privately interviews the candidate to see if there's any obstacles to ordination. So there's that process where those of you who are ordained remember that you are questioned about certain things first. They also have a fourth teacher that's important, because we don't always live with any of those three teachers who were present at our ordination. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So whoever is the teacher at the monastery or the Dharma center, it's called the Neki Lama, the Lama of the place, of the residence. Then that person becomes one of your teachers, and you train under their guidance. Okay, because if you go to live, if you have teachers here and you go to live at another center or a Dharma or a monastery, whoever is guiding that monastery, you need to follow how they're guiding all of their disciples. If the schedule, everybody wakes up at 5 o'clock, and you can't go and say, but my teacher says we don't need to wake up until 5:30. So, I'm not going to wake up when you tell us according to your, schedule here. I'm going to do what my teacher says. So that kind of stuff that doesn't fly. So we follow the format and the way that the teacher at the place is instructing. In other words, we be cooperative. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then, so we have to really check out the qualities of a teacher. We're the one who takes somebody else as one of our teachers. Okay. Nobody comes to you and says, I'm your teacher. You accept somebody as your teacher. If you take any of the sets of precepts or vows from them, that person becomes one of your teachers. Okay. So we don't go by titles when selecting teachers. Yeah, we look at their qualities. And one of the qualities, I'm going to go through some of the qualities in a minute, but one of the qualities is not charisma. Okay, you'll see when we go through the list of qualities. And I say this because we Westerners are very susceptible to charisma. Somebody who is beaming and radiant and funny and fantastic, and oozing love and kindness. And plus at public teachings, they sit on a really high throne, they wear brocade, they may even wear a hat. Yeah. And, they have a whole group of groupies following around, trotting after them, all these wonderful disciples singing their praises. My teacher is an Arya, my teacher is a Buddha, and we're very taken in for that. And we get lazy and don't check the qualities of a teacher. Yeah. And the Buddha said, you need to check the qualities. Yeah. He said, he's told us we even need to check his qualities. And, we need to check somebody's qualities, not just go along with, that kind of stardom and magic. Because in the West, I mean, we love people who are famous, don't we? And people who are in the press. And so if we have a famous teacher, oh, look, who's my teacher, and they know me by name. And here's a photograph of me with my teacher that he signed personally, and we just, yeah, we're off base. Yeah. So we love movie stars. We love sports heroes. Yeah. All the people who stand on the red carpet. Yeah. We are impressed with that. But that is not qualities that you look for in a spiritual mentor. Okay. And His Holiness often says that there's people, he's saying this about Tibetan teachers, that people who in India are nobody special, but they go to the West and all of a sudden they are His Eminence, the very precious Lama who's the fifth incarnation of so-and-so, Rinpoche, Tulku, Lama Guru, and in there is one name, but the rest of it is all these titles. And so His Holiness says there's people who come to the West and, so I don't know, maybe sometimes the teachers give themselves those titles. Maybe sometimes the students do it, out of respect for their teacher, but they just pump everything up, and it's, yeah. And His Holiness says, check, has a person studied well? Do they know what to teach you? Okay, so here's some of the qualities to look for. Okay. Now I'm going through all this because if you want to know how to handle a teacher dying, we're in the process of figuring out what kind of teachers you're going to have. Yeah, so that's why we're going through this. Okay, so your fundamental vehicle teacher, your Vinaya teacher, yeah, should keep pure ethical conduct. Yeah. Have knowledge of what to practice and abandon on the path, as well as the Vinaya rituals and procedures. They should have compassion for the sick and check out the disciples. Yeah, it's very good when you are going to a teaching and listening to it. Check out the disciples of the teacher, because if you take that teacher as one of your teachers, or if you take that person as one of your teachers, you're going to become like their disciples. Okay, so if their disciples are, all over the place, then you will be too. Okay, so they should have disciples who are gentle, kind, and wise. The teacher provides their monastic disciples with requisites for living and the Dharma teachings. And they're able to teach a Dharma topic at the right time to a disciple capable of benefiting from it. So they're not teaching high teachings to people who won't benefit. Yeah. Okay. And in short, if you want to abbreviate it, it should be somebody who's worthy of respect because they're self-disciplined and they have refined behavior as a result of keeping their precepts purely and as a result of their serious Dharma practice. Okay. Second is they have stable ethical conduct. Yeah, which for monastics means they've been ordained at least 10 years. And then third is they're learned and wise and have profound understanding of the Tripitaka. the Vinaya, the sutras, and the Abhidharma. Okay, so that's the ideal person to look for your Vinaya teacher, and they always list the ideal so that if you have any thought to become a teacher, you know what you need to cultivate. And as a student, you look for the best. But then they also know that it's very hard to have teachers of those qualities. So they often give an abbreviation. So I went through the first 6 with the top qualities and then the 3 qualities that are the abbreviation. Okay, now for a Mahayana teacher, for somebody who's leading you on a bodhisattva path. So someone who's disciplined and subdued in his or her behavior from practicing the higher training and ethical conduct. Somebody who has cultivated serenity and meditative experience due to training in the higher training and concentration. Somebody who is pacified through developing wisdom through the higher training and wisdom. Okay, so there you have the 3 higher trainings. Somebody who has more qualities than the student. That seems like a given, yeah. But apparently some people miss that one. 5 is the teacher is enthusiastic to practice the Dharma and to benefit others. 6 is they're learned in the scriptures. Okay. 7 is they have realized the emptiness of all phenomena, not just the emptiness of the person. Okay, so this is referring to somebody who has the correct view of selflessness. 8 is somebody who's skillful in giving teachings, articulate, and able to explain the Dharma clearly. 9 is compassionate and always wishing to benefit others. And 10 is does not become tired or discouraged by expounding the Dharma to others. So those are the qualities of the ideal teacher. Yeah. And by the way, the less well you know the teacher on a personal level, the easier it is to see these qualities in the person. Okay. And His Holiness talks about that. And he's, because he says, okay, the very high lamas that you only see, in group settings for teachings or whatever, initiations, then those it's very easy to have a good relationship with because you only see them when they're on the throne and they're giving teachings and it's a very special time. But he says you have to be very careful when you live with your teachers on a day-to-day basis, because then it is much easier to find their faults and pick at their faults. And since we are expert at picking at people's faults, whether or not they have those faults is another question. But we find faults, aren't we? Aren't we good at that? Yeah. Then it becomes quite difficult for us if we're always picking faults at our teacher, because if you do that, then you look at the teacher and you go, what does this person know? Nothing. Well, I'm not going to follow what they say. They're so you have to be quite careful about that if you know the teacher on a personal level. Okay, so so it's important that the teacher has, training in the 3 higher trainings. And it's also important that it's somebody who is able to discipline their own mind. Through the 3 higher trainings. But without other qualities, they will not be able to adequately guide others in the methods for transforming their minds. So we need teachers who are compassionate, who know how to teach, who know more than we do, who don't easily become tired or discouraged. Yeah, why? Because if we have a teacher that lacks those kind of qualities, then when we misbehave, then they're going to go, what am I doing here? You know, it's useless. These disciples are just, they're nutty, berserky. They drive me crazy. Get out of here. Yeah. So we need teachers who have a lot of fortitude, who aren't going to give up on us. Okay. Okay. Then there's a whole section. Seek internal qualities, not titles or external appearances. So His Holiness goes into that quite a bit in depth. I just covered it briefly. Okay, next section is becoming a qualified disciple. Uh-oh, you mean I have to have certain qualities? You mean I have to work on myself? Okay, so there's a verse in the 400 where Aryadeva says, an unprejudiced, intelligent, and interested listener is called a vessel, meaning a vessel for the teachings. Okay, so the first quality for a suitable Mahayana student is somebody who is impartial and open-minded. Yeah, somebody who's not stuck in their own ideas, not stuck in their own opinions, not clinging on to their preconceptions about, you know, anything, but somebody who is open-minded, who can hear new ideas, who can, you know, think about them and, you know, and change and grow from new things. Okay. So that's kind of obvious why we need that quality. Otherwise, you know, it's kind of hopeless, isn't it? If we're just full of our own opinions and we think we know best about everything. Okay, so that's the first quality. Second is the intelligence. Okay, so this doesn't refer to academic intelligence. Somebody can be very bright in an academic way, but not very intelligent in a Dharma way. Yeah, so this is referring to somebody who has the discriminative intelligence that can discern correct and incorrect views, as well as what to practice and abandon. Okay, so they, when they receive teachings, they can think about them and come to the right conclusions. They can understand what's being taught. Yeah, clearly, if, you know, clearly, if we can't think clearly, you know, or if we don't try, or if we just say, oh, it's too difficult and give up in frustration, yeah, then we're creating obstacles. Okay, so intelligent and discerning disciples also examine the source of a teaching and are not satisfied unless they know it originated with the Buddha. Okay, they investigate if that teaching has been studied and explained by sages, actualized by yogis, and translated by excellent translators. Yeah, so they check, they're checking. And we know how His Holiness always says, use reasoning, use logic, check things up. Don't just accept them because the teacher says. So then even if students are open-minded and intelligent, if they don't practice, they won't progress. So therefore, qualities that a student needs is interest, diligence, eagerness, commitment to practice. Yeah, so they have to have some enthusiasm and wish to learn the practice. You know, if they're just there, you know, because they need a place to live and they need some food and they don't really want to follow anybody's instructions or do anything, you know, then their practice isn't going to progress. And then it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to receive teachings, because they're going to go in one ear and out the other. Okay. Then it says, 2 more qualities of a suitable disciple are often added to these 3. The first, respect and veneration toward the teacher and teaching, makes us a receptive vessel to receive the Dharma, whereas arrogance and apathy prevent spiritual growth. Yeah. So if we're arrogant and we think, you know, we are so wise, we are so articulate, when I give a Dharma talk, more people come than when my teachers do. They love my Dharma talks. You know, I'm just really, really good. You know, we have no respect for the teacher or the teaching, but that kind of arrogance. Yeah. Apathy, clearly, you know, if we're just apathetic, then we don't care much about the teachings. It's like, oh, there's teachings going on. Oh, my little toe is hurting again. I'll stay in bed. Yeah. Or the microphone doesn't work well and it hurts my ears. Or, you know, I have to sit on this hard cushion and it hurts my back. So I'll just, you know, stay in my room and read a Dharma book. Yeah. Like Mickey Mouse goes to Tibet. Okay. So arrogance and apathy prevent spiritual growth. Appreciating our teacher's wisdom and kindness and respecting the excellent qualities of the teachings moistens our minds, making it receptive to the Buddha Dharma. That's one of the extra qualities. The second one is attentively taking the teacher's advice and instruction to heart. Okay, by putting them into practice. And this has the benefit of enabling us to plumb the depths of the teachings and integrate them into our very being. Okay, so, you know, this comes back to what we were talking about before. Are we easy to talk to? When our teacher gives advice, when they give instructions, are we receptive? Now, here we have to talk a little bit about what kind of advice and what kind of instructions. Okay, so my experience has been, and I don't know if any of this is your experience, is a lot of times the disciples, we want to be around the teacher, okay? And yeah, we want to be the people who are most around the teacher, so we can be, you know, the spiritual mentor's pet, the person they trust the most, the person who knows everything that the teacher is doing or everything going on in the monastery or the Dharma center. You know, the chief person who stands in for the teacher when the teacher isn't there, who everybody else goes to. Yeah. So we want to be somebody. Yeah. We don't, you know, we can't be president of the United States. So, but we want to have our status in the group. Okay. So, so that entails kind of working our way into the structure of things so that we can always be around the teacher. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're a good disciple. It just means that we could be attached to being somebody. We are wanting that praise and those little drops of, you know, love to come our way. So I just remember when, the early years when I was around, the way to do that was to be able to serve tea and serve meals. Yeah. So everybody wanted to make tea for the teacher. Yeah. Everybody wanted to cook and serve the meal. Everybody wanted to bring the flowers into their room. Everybody wanted to set up their altar. Yeah. We were willing to do the dishes if we got to teach the teacher too, see the teacher too. And so there was a lot of competition going on. Yeah. And of course, that has nothing to do with Dharma practice, does it? Yeah. It's just trying to, our regular old ego functions. So I remember, when Rinpoche, when I happened to be around and he would say, bring me a cup of tea, it's like, whoa, I would dash to that kitchen like an Olympic runner. And, I'm going to get this cup of tea and get out of the way, everybody else, because he asked me to make him a cup of tea. So I'm not going to give him tea, hot tea in the thermos that you made. Yeah. And I'm not going to let you make the tea. Yeah, even though you know exactly how he likes it. I'm going to make the tea and serve it and, elbow everybody else out, but then go in the room and be the sweet, meek disciple who offers the tea. Yeah. And so there are people like that, yeah, who are incredibly rude and aggressive when they're not around the teacher. Yeah. But when they're near the teacher, they are so disponibile, willing, kind, obsequious. Yeah, that word. Yeah. And that's the way we are. But as soon as they're out, it's like, they really do, they're not very pleasant. Okay. So we shouldn't be two-faced like that around our teacher. Okay. So there's some very beautiful quotes here. Here's one from the Buddha. When you understand the meaning of my statements, remember them accordingly. And when you do not understand the meaning of my statements, then ask either me or those monastics who are wise about it. In other words, question. After you've thought about it first. Okay. Okay, so that's one chapter. Then we didn't put the qualifications for a Vajrayana teacher in this chapter. That's going to come in volume 10, yeah, which is about Vajrayana. So this is only volume 2. Okay, so the next chapter is called Relying on Spiritual Mentors. So I'm just picking things out of this that, I think would be helpful. Okay, so here's something more, the benefits of relying on a spiritual mentor. Now, look at the wording here, relying on a spiritual mentor. Yeah, many times the same Tibetan phrase, Lama Tenpa, Lama being spiritual mentor, Tenpa meaning to rely or depend upon, that's often translated as guru devotion. Now, I don't know about you, but words have certain meanings to me. Yeah. And relying on a spiritual mentor gives me the feeling of, okay, somebody's a spiritual mentor. So they're mentoring me, they're giving me advice and instructions, which means that I have a commitment to listen and to practice, and to serve that person. And I'm relying on them. So I want to create a relationship with that person where I can rely and depend on them in a wholesome way, in a productive way that's going to benefit the teacher and benefit me. So that's the words, just relying or depending on a spiritual mentor, what it means. Just the words itself in English. When that phrase, is translated, and I don't, from my knowledge of Tibetan, it's not an exact translation. When Lama is, can be translated as guru. But when you say guru in English, it has a very different meaning than spiritual mentor, doesn't it? Guru is from Asia, is exotic. Yeah, at least my generation, we were the first ones to come across, the Asian gurus, who look really different than us. And, they go into samadhi and roll their eyeballs back and then speak these profound announcements. And then word devotion, okay? Yeah, what's the impact of the word devotion? For me, devotion is, it's like what you hear, my generation heard, you surrender to the guru. Okay. Now, sometimes you never really hear that in Buddhism, the word surrender, although some teachers are starting to use it now. But the idea isn't surrender your wisdom. It's surrender your ego. It's be open, receptive, intelligent, open-minded, enthusiastic. But when I hear guru devotion, I think, guru is somehow a bit mystical. I mean, spiritual mentor. Mentor is just somebody, who gives you some advice. But guru is kind of mystical and very special, and, and I'm devoted. My guru, everything, I sacrifice everything for my guru. In a very dramatic way of, sometimes even competing with other disciples to show how much faith I have and how much devotion I have. Okay. So I don't know if you people have the same reaction to the words guru devotion that I do. Some of you agree. Relying on a spiritual mentor is, for me, much more down to earth. And it means that I have to, create a good relationship and rely and depend on that person in a proper way. Okay, so here's the benefits of doing that. Our thoughts and words will become virtuous because we will follow our spiritual mentor's wise advice. For the same reason, we won't bring suffering on ourselves or others. It's true. If we follow, if our teacher is giving us actual Dharma advice and we put it into practice, our words and thoughts will become virtuous and we will be much nicer to be around and we won't cause other people problems and suffering. We will complete the 2 collections of merit and wisdom and attain full awakening by following reliable teachings. We will be able to work for the benefit of sentient beings, even including those who have entered wrong paths. who are hard to work with. Okay, because our spiritual mentor teaches us how to purify our negativities, we will exhaust destructive karma that would have ripened in lengthy, unfortunate rebirths. And we may instead, that karma may instead ripen in this life as comparatively mild discomfort or harm. And this comes about a lot if you're, if you're working for your teacher, if you're practicing, and doing things. Due to the important role our spiritual mentors play in our lives, we will create great merit, more than is created by making offerings to limitless Buddhas. Yeah. You'd think that making offerings to limitless Buddhas would create more merit. But the idea here is that our spiritual mentor is a living being who's right there with us here and now. Yeah. And they know us well on a personal level. So the instructions they give will be, they can be very specific. Saying that does not mean that you only follow instructions that the teacher gives you one-on-one. But when they teach in a big teaching, you don't need to follow those instructions. Okay, if you think like that, it's totally wrong. And some people think like that, oh, His Holiness Dalai Lama, or one of our teachers is teaching hundreds of students, thousands of students. I go because I like being there, but these are not personal instructions for me. Yeah, because he's saying them to the whole group. Whereas if he says, bring me a cup of tea, that is a personal instruction that I'm going to fulfill, come hell or high water. Okay. But what he says to the group, like, be kind to the other people here. Yeah. Well, why do I have to follow that? He's saying that to everybody. That's not unique instruction for me. That's not important. Yeah. Or he said, he says, recite 21 Om Mani Padme Hums every day. Well, yeah, he said that to a group. I don't need to do that. Okay. So don't think like that. The instructions that our teachers give to the group are also our personal instructions. Some of the instructions may be more advanced than we can actually do at this point, but we don't say, I can't do that. We say, those are more advanced than what I can handle at the moment, but I will remember those. And when I am more capable, I will, start doing them. Okay, what else? By properly relying on our spiritual mentors in this life, we will meet qualified spiritual mentors in future lives. This one is really important, because if we don't meet qualified spiritual mentors in future lives, then we could wind up meeting Charlatananda and following Charlatananda. And if you have a teacher who is not, is not qualified, then, you wind up practicing a wrong path. And I can tell you many stories. I started to tell part of one of those stories at the beginning when I was talking about the teacher who says, oh, you're my perfect disciple. I've been waiting for you to come along because, we're going to be very close and you are really wonderful. So one teacher said that to one of my friends, and my friend thought, wow, that's great. I want to be close to the teacher. So he started doing work for the teacher. And then after some time, he found out that that teacher was sexually abusing his daughter. Okay, so somebody who the teacher was flattering him. Yeah, and he bit the hook. And yeah, so the thing is, don't go for flattery and this thing of you're going to be a special person or you are a special person or whatever. Okay, because we have to always look, why are we going to a spiritual mentor? Yeah, why are we there? Do we want to generate bodhicitta? Are we eager to realize emptiness? Do we want to benefit sentient beings? Or do we want to be a groupie? Or do we want, some other kind of thing? Okay, a groupie is, somebody who follows around a big teacher or a big somebody, like movie stars, they have groupies around them. Politicians these days have groupies around them. Okay, by properly relying on our spiritual mentor this life, we will meet qualified spiritual mentors in future lives. Our good qualities will increase and we will accomplish the welfare of ourselves and others. So then our life becomes meaningful because we can do something to benefit others. Yeah. Under our teacher's compassionate guidance, we will feel supported and inspired in our practice. So if we create a really good relationship with our teacher, then we feel very supported and related and we feel supported and guided in our practice. And you begin to see that you don't always need to be with your teacher. In the beginning years, we definitely need to be around a teacher because that's when you really establish your habits and things like that. And it's really important. But then after a while, your teacher may, ask you to go here, go there, or do something else. And, or even stay where you are, but, take on another responsibility. But when we have that close relationship, then we feel okay about doing that and we go ahead. If our teachers, and we'll get into this later, but sometimes if our teachers ask us to do things that we can't do, then it's fine to say, I can't do this and explain why. If our teachers ask us to do something that is against the Dharma or against the precept, we should definitely say no. Okay, so this doesn't mean, and see, this is to me what the word devotion gives me the picture of somebody who's so starry-eyed that, whatever the guru says, they're like, yeah, I'll go do it. And again, it's a thing of, if we want to benefit sentient beings, if we want to fulfill our guru's wishes by becoming bodhisattvas, then we have to learn to think clearly and to bear responsibility and not just, be starry-eyed about the whole thing. Okay. So let's pause here. We can have a little bit of Q&A. And then tomorrow we'll continue. So I will get to, you have a whole bunch of questions and I even printed them out here so that I would remember to answer your questions, okay? But to answer the questions properly, you need to know what I'm doing today and we'll continue with tomorrow. So questions, answers, questions first.
So if anyone does have a question, you're welcome to raise your hand or type it in the chat area. And thank you.
All of you can ask questions too. That'll encourage them.
You mentioned that His Holiness's presentation was unique and it answered some questions that had been weighing on you. What were those questions that were weighing on you?
the questions that were waiting on me had very much to do with how to relate to a spiritual mentor in and how to deal with this thing of seeing the teacher as Buddha and everything they do as perfect. And and His Holiness addressed that in very practical, down-to-earth ways. And many of that is included in the second chapter here in the book. The second chapter on the relationship with the teacher. Yeah, it was also at that time when he, it was at that meeting of Western Buddhist teachers with His Holiness. And when we gave the panel about monasticism, and when His Holiness said, don't wait for us Tibetans to make monasteries and do things, be proactive and essentially take responsibility, which was for me a big open door. Yeah. Like, oh, I can try out my ideas. Okay. Other questions? Mm-hmm.
Venerable, we do have a question from Nun. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question, that would be great.
Venerable Chodron. So actually I'm from Yangon. I'm quite shocked when hearing there is the spiritual that makes sexual abuse to children. So can Venerable give the advice how we know and how to choose to find a good teacher? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So how to choose and find a good teacher. You go to the teachings, you can learn something about different teachers beforehand. And if what they're teaching sounds interesting and their bio sounds interesting, you can go to the teaching and listen to the teaching, and you check, is the teaching according to the general Buddhist doctrine, or is the teacher teaching some kind of new age thing, or something they made up last Wednesday? So you listen to the teachings, you check out the qualities of the teachings, and then you also ask, you look at the disciples, and what, like I said before, you're going to become like them. So look at what the qualities they have. Ask other people about their experience with the teacher. Yeah. And then you can go to several teachings and, learn from them. And then when you really feel confident that they're qualified, because you've been learning about them and observing them through, the different criteria, the different qualities that are listed here for a good teacher, then, when you've seen and you have confidence, oh yes, they seem quite good and the teachings are good, and this is disciples, there's a couple of crazy ones, but most of them are pretty good. Then you can, and form a relationship with that teacher. So it's perfectly okay to take your time. Yeah, they say that Lama Yeshe checked out Sir Lingpa for 12 years before taking him as his teacher. That's a little bit long. Yeah, but what the purpose is to, to emphasize to us to check well. Okay. Did you have a question?
It seems to, well, I know for sure that the relationship changes from the side of the student the more you mature in the practice and so forth. And I just wonder if there are like markers or something that you could talk about that deepening of relationship or that understanding, when you get first past the first crush and then you get past the, or what, is there some, do you understand what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
about that a
The
little bit.
basic thing is to see, are your afflictions not as strong as they were? Yeah. And is your understanding growing, and your willingness to give up attachment to I want what I want when I want it decreasing? Yeah. So basically to check how your practice is going, and then that, but you're following the teachings and progressing. Mhm. Oh, John is, where is he? I'm not seeing. Oh, there he is. Hi, John. Yeah, then why did you tell me that? Oh, okay. John Landau is an old friend of mine from way back when. Yeah. We were eating lunch one day in front of the Tara statue and the pond at Kopan, and Lama Yeshe walked by. And I was a total newbie before I was ordained, and I had been asking John questions. And Lama walked by and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, yeah, good, you ask him questions, he knows. So, other questions?
We don't see any more questions here, and it is 34 past the hour.
Okay, so then let's close.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Okay, see you next Wednesday.